Over the last few months, I obsessively studied premium brands across different industries, from fashion, watches, supercars, tech, and I found that they all use the same exact three principles to be able to charge 10 times, 20 times, 30 times more than their competition. And I'm going to be breaking down these exact principles in this video right now so you can take and apply them to your brand, to your offer, whether you're selling a digital product, a physical product, or even online coaching or one-on-one mentorship. So let's get into it because this is going to be super valuable. So when we're talking about premium brands, right? We got supercars like Ferrari, watches like Rolex, fashion brands like YSL. They all look completely different on the surface, right? They're selling a different thing, but what they got in common is they're all premium. And they all share this one thing. They can just charge whatever the fuck they want, and people just pay without questioning. And I'm sure you know these brands, like when we're talking about Birkin bags. I'm sure everybody's wondering, you might be wondering, like, why would somebody pay 25,000, 30,000 for just a bag, right? And I know on a surface level that seems fucking dumb, like it seems like a waste of money, but there's a lot of psychology that goes, behind that for a brand to be able to sell that. And these principles I'm going to be breaking down. So, look, when you take away, the logos from the brands and the trends and the aesthetics, what you're going to find underneath all of that is three timeless psychological principles that every premium brand uses. And this is not marketing tactics, not funnel hacks. This is all psychology. And if you're new to the channel, I'm breaking down basically the entire like premium branding space and the psychology behind it, because I'm very big on that. A lot of people, when we're talking about funnels, right? When we're talking about marketing, a lot of people love to just obsess over what is the best copy for my VSL, what is the best funnel to use, what is the best like email platform to fucking use. But it doesn't really matter, because when you master the psychology behind it all, then you can essentially, one, sell whatever, and then two, create whatever funnel, because the funnel doesn't really matter at that point. So let's continue with this. These are the three premium branding principles. We got exclusivity, we got identity, and then we got story. And we're going to go one by one, and I'm going to be breaking them down with some case studies, because this is going to be super interesting. So these three things are essentially why Ferrari can sell 500,000 or even more cars, why Rolex can charge 50,000 for a watch, why Apple can charge 3 times more or maybe even 50 times more, than competitors for essentially the same specs. These same principles work for founders, coaches, and personal brands. And if you're someone right now building your personal brand, I said it before in one of the other videos, don't just build a typical personal brand wrapped in this idea of, fucking tips and tricks and educational content and just that. Like, create a fucking icon in your industry, in your space, right? And that's why you just need to understand how to apply these principles, because they're going to allow you to do that. So the very first principle, exclusivity, right? I talked about it before, but there's something hardwired in us that wants, like, we want what we cannot easily have, basically. And exclusivity isn't just a marketing tactic, it's a deep psychological trigger. Because the feeling of owning something, right, that not everyone can own, that is the best feeling in the world. This is why, people go for Saint Laurent, for Ferrari, for Rolex, because not everybody else can own those products. And at that point, it's again not about the product, it's about the exclusivity of it. And the thing is, exclusivity is not the same as scarcity. And I did a versus here. So exclusivity versus scarcity. Scarcity sounds like this, which is a lot of, like, these fucking gurus do this a lot. There's only 10 left, like buy now before it's gone, on only 10 days to buy, all of that. But exclusivity is like, this isn't for everyone. You have to earn access. So bottom line is, scarcity is desperate, but exclusivity is powerful. And scarcity usually manipulates through fear, but exclusivity attracts through status. So there's a very distinct difference between exclusivity and scarcity. And I've said this before, but if you look in this online space with people selling courses, group programs and stuff, they apply scarcity a lot. they use this thing called fear-based selling, in which they tell you you only got 2 days left, 2 spots left. But it's really not like true, isn't, they got like 500 million spots left. But they just tell you this because they want to essentially get you to buy through fear. But when we're talking about exclusivity, again, like I said, that attracts through status. So the luxury approach in this regarding exclusivity is that premium brands create a narrative around the product that just elevates it beyond its actual like intrinsic functional value, and the product itself becomes secondary. But the ownership, the status, the story, the feeling of being part of something rare, that's what people are actually paying for. So they're not just paying for, let me write this down. They're not just paying for products, right? They're not just paying for this. They're paying for status. They're paying for exclusivity. Because this is what happens when you create, and we're going to get into the story principle, but when you create a narrative behind your product, behind your brands, then that transcends the actual like functional value, as I said here, because it's not just about the product. It's about more than that. So let's say represents, because I think this is a good case study and I put it here for a reason. So the way they did it, Represent basically built their entire fucking business on drops, right? So they don't stock forever. They release limited quantities. And once it's gone, it's completely gone, right? And you got to get in a wait list and stuff like that. So this isn't fake scarcity with just countdown timers. It's built-in exclusivity. So every single purchase feels like you got in before it was too late. And I talked about it before, but I applied essentially the same principles with my ecom store. Before like content, I was running an ecom store and I made multiple six figures with it. And I was selling something super fucking basic. I was selling phone cases, privacy, like, those, I don't have my phone, but like privacy phone cases where people cannot essentially like see your screen. So I was selling that and I was doing the same thing. I was doing drops and I applied a lot of exclusivity to that because the product in and of itself, the product was fucking basic. Everybody else can sell that. Everybody can make a store and sell that. But it's all in how you present it to the market and how you create this exclusivity effect around it. And Represent did it like in a really good way. So in terms of creators, right? If you're a creator, if you're growing your brand, how do you apply this? You got to have an application process in place before you even talk to someone. This is really good and something that you can actually take and apply. So something super easy to do. You can have a type form. You can have, on your calendar, like some questions to apply. Like, don't just allow people to instantly get on a call with you or like get on a conversation with you. You got to have some qualification criteria that you actually enforce, right? So emphasis on, you have to enforce this. You got to have limited spots that are actually limited. So don't be one of the guys that says, limited spots. I only got 5 spots left. But then when those spots are filled, then you add 5 more and 5 more, because then that doesn't come across as genuine, and you want to actually enforce this. Another thing is saying no publicly so people see you're selective. This is huge. And also making people feel like they earn access to you. And I said this before, but if you say yes to everybody, if it's super fucking easy to just work with you, if people get access to you 24/7, you essentially became a commodity in your industry. And you don't want that, right? So the second principle here is identity, because exclusivity gets attention, but identity is what keeps people locked in. And it's what turns a customer into an actual believer in your brand. And premium brands do not sell just like products. They sell a reflection of who the customer wants to be. This is absolutely huge. And these gurus are obviously not going to tell you about this, because it's much easier to just talk about like, this is how you sell a product. This is how you build a funnel around it. But as I said, that is just the tip of the iceberg, because you have to understand, regardless, you could be like, I work with fitness coaches, and I'm going to give you an example of one of my clients. I work with founders, with people doing like fashion stylists. It's not about the offer. It's not about the features. It's not about, you get this when you join and you get that. Like that becomes secondary because what you need to sell is identity. So premium brands essentially understand that when somebody buys something expensive, they're not just buying a thing, they're signaling something about themselves. And this is something very good here. This is the identity equation that you can take and apply. So it's essentially this. When I buy this product, this is from the perspective of the customer. When I buy this product, I become this type of person, and then the world is going to see me as this. That's the equation running in every single premium purchase. Because again, it's not about the fucking product. The product doesn't matter. It's about the identity transformation. So we have an amazing case study here that talks about this from Chanel back when they did this campaign that absolutely like destroyed the entire competition. Every woman alive loves Chanel number 5. And this was amazing for them. So let's break it down. By the 1950s, Chanel basically was, had a lot of competition and everyone was selling perfumes. Everybody was doing it. And women were becoming like more independent in the 50s and they were looking for products that essentially reflected confidence and sophistication, right? So Chanel at that point had a choice. They could compete on features, ingredients, price, or just do something completely different in the market. And they launched this campaign basically with this one line: every woman alive adores Chanel number 5. And they didn't talk about the products at all. They talked about the identity of the woman who wears Chanel. So they made owning Chanel a statement about who you are. And again, this is if I scroll back, this was the campaign here. Every woman alive loves Chanel number 5. Did they say anything about like, yeah, we have these many ingredients, this is the price? No. They sold the fucking identity. That's how you do. This is literally a masterclass in marketing, what they did here. So what are some identity signals for creators that you can, like, if you're a creator, again, you can take and use? You got to ask, what identity do people take on when they work with you? For example, if you're selling a one-on-one coaching or mentorship offer like I am, what is the identity of the people that essentially when they start, when they purchase and invest, to work with you, who do they become internally? Forget about the features, forget about the roadmap, forget about like the modules, forget about all of that. Who do they become? Because for me, I literally have it in my bio. I turn creators into icons. So for me, if you and I would work together right now, the brand strategy and building the entire thing, building the ecosystem, building the offer, building the infrastructure, that is just, again, the tip of the iceberg. Because for example, what I do with every single client that I start working with, the very first call that we have, I call it a brand vision call, in which we sit down for about 2 hours, 3 hours even, and we map out their entire positioning, unique angle. I do a deep dive essentially into who the person is, because this is what's missing nowadays in this space. Everybody's with copy-paste funnels, copy-paste strategies, all of this, but nobody's actually building the brand around the person. So the problem is, if you take a model from somebody else that might have worked for them, and you try to apply it to your own brand, but you don't understand the psychology, you don't really know what is my unique angle in the market, what could I leverage from my story, what identity am I trying to sell? If you don't know the psychology basically behind this, the strategies are not really going to work, which is why you got, every single client that started working with me last month told me the same exact thing. Like, before working with you, I got into this group coaching program and they gave me a fucking list. You know how it goes. Like, gave me a list of 500 posts to do, content plan, whatever, but that didn't work because it didn't fucking resonate with who I was. This is what everybody's telling me. So it's because of this. It's because they don't understand the psychology behind it. So again, when people follow you, who do they become? When they buy from you, who do they become? And if the answer is just, a customer or a client, you don't have a premium brand. You just have a commodity, if that's the answer. So ask yourself, when somebody joins my world, who do they become? What does buying from me say about them? right? So am I selling premium? Am I selling something that is really not a commodity, something exclusive? What, like, when they buy this product from me, what does that tell them, about who they are? And what identity are they stepping into after making the purchase? And how do they signal to others that they're part of my tribe? Take a screenshot of this right here and sit down for about 20 minutes and try to answer these questions genuinely for your brand. Because I know, again, it's so easy to just obsess over, what do I need to post? What is the exact hook that I got to use here? Fuck all of that for a second. Take a second and just, take 20, 30 minutes and really try and craft what is basically the identity here that people are stepping into. What is the identity? Do you know it, or are you just trying to sell something because you saw somebody else sell that? Because that's the issue. If you want to stand out in your industry, if you want to become an icon, you need to be able to instantly, like, if I would ask you right now these questions, you will need to be able to give me an answer, like, super fast. And if you need help with this, by the way, you can book a call down below. I'm doing basically brand consultation calls if you want a one-off call. But essentially, stop selling outcomes, right? Start selling, again, identity transformation. So, and this is one of my clients, a fitness coach, just selling, lose 20 pounds, whatever. It's just competing on outcomes because everyone promises outcomes. So I'm never going to sit here and promise you I can get you to 100,000 followers on Instagram in 2 weeks or get you 2 clients in 3 days, because that's just bullshit. I don't do guarantees like that. But everybody promises outcomes. Whereas a fitness coach selling, you can become someone who commands physical presence in every room. That is basically premium identity. And this is exactly what I did with one of my clients, Martel, with a premium offering here. I got this case study on my channel here. You can watch it, but he was in the fitness space for a long time. And the problem that I solved for him was basically, how do I take my entire knowledge that I have and put it into a tangible but premium offer that people would want to buy, which is not just selling fitness, just like everybody else, for $500 a month. And how do we build something premium out of it? And we came up with this angle, which for him completely crushed because he got to 60,000 a month. So is this idea of becoming a status symbol, right? So not just selling, you're going to lose 30 pounds, you're going to lose the fat, whatever. No, fuck all of that. Becoming a status symbol. So getting the high status physique, sex appeal, and energy of an elite athlete in less than 90 days. So you see, we don't mention like, you're going to lose X pounds of fat, you're going to gain this amount of muscle. No, we're selling, literally, it's in here. We're selling status. And this absolutely crushed. You can go, I'm going to link the video here somewhere so you can go watch the case study. So this is the third principle and the last one, story, right? This is huge because exclusivity makes people want your products. Identity makes them see themselves in it, in your product, in your ecosystem. But the story is what makes your brand unforgettable. It's what just basically brings everything together. Because storytelling isn't about creative logos or just pretty visuals. It's about creating a narrative that connects your product to who your customer aspires to be. Okay? So, why does story beat features every single time? It's because features can be compared, but stories cannot, right? Features appeal to logic, but stories appeal to emotion. And features are forgettable. You can look at like Microsoft, you can look at Samsung, you can look at all of these companies that sell so many different features, but your average Joe doesn't fucking care. They don't care about the features like that. That's why Apple is fucking crushing it, because they don't sell the whole set of features. You got it on their website for every device, sure, but they sell the status. You can go look it up right now, like their website. This is why they're at the top, because they understand human psychology. They understand that, whether it's the Apple Watch, the iPhone, or the Mac, whatever, there's a story behind the product. So when you compete on features, you just compete on price. And I try to do that before with like my companies, my businesses, I I mentioned ecom earlier. I try to do that, but you essentially, you get placed into this bubble with the competition, and then people are going to just price shop. They're going to look for the better deal. But when you compete on story, the price just becomes fucking irrelevant. And I think this is what you want. You don't want to compete on price. Now, we have an amazing case study in here from Nespresso with George Clooney. It was this one when basically they came up with the slogan, Nespresso, what else? This was the entire campaign. Nespresso, what else? This was it. So let's break it down. Because by the mid 2000s, obviously coffee was fucking everywhere. Everybody started to be addicted to coffee. Espresso machines were becoming common, and Nespresso had a functional product, but it was just generic. It was just like everybody else in the market at that time. So they understood something crucial here. They weren't in the business of selling coffee. They were in the business of selling a story. And the solution was, at the time, George Clooney, right? So they basically cast someone sophisticated, witty, refined, someone who embodied the lifestyle they wanted to communicate. So again, they went from selling coffee to selling a lifestyle. And the slogan they went with was, again, what else? Literally 2 words. You can see this with Nike as well, like just do it. It's this slogan basically crafted the entire story for the campaign because it wasn't about the coffee. It was about the story of being someone who appreciates the finer things, someone with taste, someone like George Clooney at the time, right? So here are a couple of story elements that you can use and keep in mind. Heritage, right? Where did this come from? What's the history of the product? Craftsmanship, right? How is this made? What makes it special, right? Origin, what problem did the founder face? What journey did they go on? Mission, what larger movement is this part of? And enemy, what is this brand fighting against? These are just a couple of story elements. But in terms of how do you apply this as a framework, you basically need your origin. So what did you go through? That's why I said earlier, I'm literally going through this on a call with everybody, every single person that I start working with. What did you go through? Walk me through your story. I want to know who you are. Fuck the features, fuck the offer for now. Who are you? Because we will craft the brand around who you are, not craft the funnel and then try to like adapt you to the funnel, because that's just fucking dumb. What made you want to start this? Your enemy. What are you fighting against? What broken system or lie? What is your mission? What's the bigger movement here? Why does this matter? Transformation. How did you become who you are right now? What was your own transformation that you went through? And your world. What universe are you inviting people into? Because the minute you can map all of this out, that's when you're going to have a premium brand. This is the story framework. Now, how do you apply all of these 3 principles to your brand? Again, exclusivity, identity, and then story. These principles essentially work together. This is what you got to understand. They work together. Exclusivity creates desire, identity creates belonging, and story creates memory. And when you combine all 3, you have a brand that can charge whatever it wants. So in terms of applying them, for exclusivity, how are you limiting access right now? Do you limit access? Do you have limited spots? What are you turning away? What makes working with you feel earned? Are you actually selective or just saying you are, right? So ask yourself these questions for exclusivity. Let's move on. For identity, what identity again do people take on when they join? What does being in your world say about someone? How do your people signal they're part of your tribe? And what transformation are you really selling? I mentioned fitness before. You don't just sell, if you're in fitness right now watching, don't just sell, I'm going to help you lose 50 pounds. Don't just sell that. Think about that actual benefit and outcome. What does it produce as a transformation, as a deep transformation? It might be more confidence. It might be, the respect, the high status when you walk into a room. And then you sell that. You don't sell the actual surface level benefit. You sell, again, identity. Now, for story, what's your origin narrative? Who's your enemy? What are you going against? What movements are people joining? And what worlds are you creating? What world are you creating? because it's not just about, you know, building an offer, building a product, building a stand store, building that, and just making some quick cash, and that's it. If you want to actually build a premium brand, it's about more than that, creating an entire universe. And again, as a conclusion with this, I said it before, the product is never the point. The price is never the point. What you're really selling is a world. What you're really selling is a universe that transcends any kind of product. A world people want to enter, a world that makes them feel like a better version of themselves, a world with its own values, its own language, its own identity. This is how you do it. And again, I kind of obsess over premium brands in general because there's a lot that goes into crafting, and we had a look at Nespresso. Even in boring industries like that, like coffee, there's a lot that you can do applying these principles to craft a brand like that, to do a campaign like Chanel that crushes the competition. So go through all of these again. Again, you have a link down below if you want to book a consultation call with me, and we're going to build your premium brand, luxury brand strategy around who you are as a person and then as an icon in your industry. And I'm going to see you in the next one.